Like, wow, this is dangerous.
Is that okay, Greg?
Right. Is that approved?
All right, let's go inside it. All right, good morning, folks. Thank you for joining us here today in this press conference that I called yesterday. I'm joined here by part of my delegation, which are the members that also serve the 9th Judicial District, Circuit District. And I want to start by thanking Governor Scott for the review and the reassignment of the 21 cases in the 9th Judicial District that he did yesterday by reassigning these death penalty cases to State Attorney Brad King. I gotta remind you guys that back in the letter that dated March 17th that I sent the governor, we did ask for a review, a reassignment of all those cases, but also we asked for a suspension of the state attorney. So why are we asking for the suspension? We want to, a lot of people are asking, does the governor have the authority to do this? And basically in Article 5, Section 17, we'll start by, each judicial circuit, a state attorney shall be elected for a term of 4 years, except as otherwise provided in this Constitution. He or she shall be the prosecuting officer of all trial courts in that circuit and shall perform other duties prescribed by general law. So based on that, the key word here is prosecuting officer. So we'll go by the definition of prosecution. And prosecution is the institution in carrying on legal proceedings against a person, the body of officials by whom such proceedings are instituted and carried on, and finally, the following up of something undertaken or begun usually to its completion, which leads us back to the reassignment of these 21 cases that the governor just did. These were already started by previous state attorneys, and every single case there was a notice of intent to seek the death penalty. So leading up to this, I believe that the state attorney, Aramis Ayala, is abusing the prosecutorial discretion in a way that it was not intended. This discretion is used to determine how to prosecute a crime based on evidence for each individual case. Not all the cases, as the state attorney determined by her blanket statement back in March 15th, saying that she would not seek the death penalty in all cases, past or present. So then we move forward to what happens going on from here on out. One case example, Alex Zaldivar was the young man that was murdered while he was awaiting to be a witness in the trial by Bestman Okafor. And the Okafor case right now came all the way here to the Supreme Court and is reverting back to the 9th Judicial Circuit. So what happens when it returns back to the 9th Judicial Circuit? Will the governor have to issue an executive order to reassign these cases? What happens in all the cases in the future that may qualify or may have aggravated circumstances for death penalty cases? Will the governor have to step in and issue executive orders for each case in the future? Is this the best serving the interests of justice both for victims and defendants and also for the residents of the 9th Judicial Circuit? So then, finally, Article 4, Section 7 of the Florida Constitution says, the governor may suspend based on neglect of duty. By not reviewing each case based on the aggravated circumstances and her blanket statement of not seeking death penalty cases moving forward, I believe this is neglect of duty. And she either must resign or the governor must suspend her and appoint someone in her place. And based on that, I did submit another letter to the governor this morning, basically thanking him for reassigning those cases. And then finally, I finished the letter with saying, I continue to respectfully ask that you suspend State Attorney Aramis Ayala from her position on the 9th Judicial Circuit on the basis of Article 4, Section 7 of the Florida Constitution, and appoint someone that will handle these future cases in the manner they should and not abuse prosecutorial discretion that is afforded to our state attorneys. And if you notice, I'm carrying around the Constitution, which is what I'm basing the ask for the governor to suspend it. And with that, I'll turn it over to Representative Plakin.
Thank you. Good morning, and thanks for being here. In recent days, the state attorney of the 9th Judicial Circuit has been in various media outlets talking about a parade of horribles that she says may happen if the 21 positions and $1.3 million is cut from the budget. There's a few things that she's not telling you, however. First, as you guys all know, if you look at the budgets being submitted by the subcommittees, there's a lot of cuts happening right now this year. Second, she's also not saying that last year and I just found this out recently myself, the entire state, all 20 circuits, there was only 33 prosecutor positions added. This office received 21 of the 33. Third, according to transparency.gov, she has 386.5 authorized positions, or FTEs, of which, according to transparency.gov, only 326.5. That's 60 vacancies in that office. Transparency.gov claims to update every Friday from People's First. Actually, since the beginning of the year, according to salaries.myflorida.com, she's only added 15 positions. So I know the office has made statement that they only have 33 and not the 60 that transparency.gov has on their website today. 33 is still greater than 21. So all of a lot of the statements she's made about the harm coming and so on, these are vacant positions she's talking about.
Thank you. And then finally to close with that is that a lot of these cases now with the reassignment, the money for each individual case will now follow the case itself. So her office will not necessarily suffer any of that. It will be because the cases are being reassigned to State Attorney Brad King, and each individual case will receive the funding for that case, will follow the case itself. So with that, I can answer a few questions, and then we can move on forward.
Could you be more specific about when you guys are crafting the budget right now, since Brad King is getting all these cases, does all that go to his district, or like how are you guys, would that have to be changed at all in the budget?
I think Representative Plake handles the appropriations for the judicial, but I believe the way it works is that each individual case, there will be, as they go along, the office itself will submit how much they need for each individual case, and they'll be funded through a portion of the budget that is designed for those cases like that.
And then the other part of the Constitution, after you said that, part below, it talks about the Senate removing him from office. So I don't see any senators here. Do you know what first of all, what they're thinking over there? Second of all, what the rules are for suspending someone from office? Because I don't think it's happened. This is not in a very, very long time. And what happens if the governor suspends them and they can't remove them from office? Do they just go back?
Great question, Greg. Article 4, Section 7 does provide how that's handled. It's either a regular session or special session. The Senate can take on the case and review it. I've spoken to a few senators. Senator Baxley, I spoke to him a few days ago, and he was going to try to be here today. He's not here. I don't know how the Senate would handle it, but I guess if it goes to their, whatever their rules state, if the Senate does decide not to take this case, the governor has his authority to reinstate the state attorney back in or not, and that's what the Constitution says.
You've already had a lot of pushback from Black majority organizations, including the NAACP, the Black Legislative Caucus. If the governor were to remove Ms. Ayala, the first Black elected state attorney in Florida, aren't you concerned about the possible outcry that she's being targeted either for racial purposes or whatever the fallout from that might be could be pretty enormous?
Well, I disagree that this has to do anything with racial, whether this person, the state attorney, would have been white, Black, Hispanic. I'm Hispanic myself, so for me to be targeting her because of her race has nothing to do with it. My race and my culture is a mixture of white, Black, and Taino Indian, so, I understand where you're going with. A lot of folks are saying that she's being targeted because she's Black. No, she's being targeted because she has said that she will not handle cases moving forward. In my opinion, that's a neglected duty. She has been elected to do a job and follow the law. Yes, she absolutely has prosecutorial discretion, no doubt on that. But that prosecutorial discretion should be on each individual, based on each individual case and aggravating circumstances, not a blanket statement. I don't like the death penalty, therefore I'm not going to seek it.
Can I jump in on that?
Yes.
I think what you're asking is about political consequences, and in serious matters involving the death penalty, I think I can speak for my colleagues here that we're focused on the policy consequences and the fact that we have a state attorney that is in effect making law. So the political consequences are way down the list in our view. This is a very, very serious matter. And I said last week to one of the media outlets, with this prosecutor attempting to make law, as you all know, you see laws made in this building every year. And I think the proper thing for her to do, rather than wait for the Senate and the governor, would be to resign her position. And I know there's several legislative seats opening up in the Orlando area, to win one of those and come and file a bill to repeal the death penalty and see if she can get the votes for it. And that would be the right thing to do. The wrong thing to do is to make law from somebody in the executive branch.
One more thing also, keep in mind that a lot of the victims in, for example, the Markeith Lloyd case are African American, and you have the parents of the victims, and even Sade Davis, who originally said that she would support Aramis Ayala. However, I've got statements from Greg Jackson, who's the attorney, who had spoken with Sade Davis' family and said they would support the governor's decision, and they do support the governor's decision moving forward. So, you know, these are things that are coming about to light right now that have to do, and I don't think it has anything to do with the whether this is a racial issue. It's more about what her statements have said and what it's doing to the 9th Judicial District and Justice.
So she does say, though, in her reasoning why not to pursue death penalty cases is that she's implying that there's a real divide in this state between black Floridians and white Floridians as to the application of the death penalty and how accurate the death penalty is applied in many cases. Is that a legitimate concern, and does that potentially further the divide in this state if you continue to try to target this state attorney for removal?
And if you look at most of the ones that are sitting on death row, there are more whites than blacks on death row currently right now. So that kind of doesn't hold its water the way it is right now. And pertaining to that, she was elected to represent the state of Florida in the 9th Judicial District on cases that are currently being heard that have already been determined to be death penalty cases and moving forward, and then the ones that are coming new.
I'd like to ask you about that, because some of those cases that the lawyers, but, and certainly I'm not one, but some of the cases that the governor reassigned were the prosecutor, her predecessor, sought the death penalty before the new changes went into effect. So now we require a unanimous jury recommendation. I mean, might not the prosecutors have not opted to seek death under the new paradigm?
And that's probably the case, but when she made her blanket statement that she would not even determine the aggravating circumstances, she put this big umbrella that she wouldn't even give it the consideration, and that's the problem that I have.
There's no guarantee that that Brad King is
There
going
is-
to seek death in every one of these.
That is correct. There's no guarantee, but at least she's using the prosecutorial discretion as the way it's intended to, based on aggravating. Sir.
Representative, whether it is reality or not, how do you deal with the perception that the first elected black state attorney is facing the political equivalent of a lynch mob?
I wouldn't consider it a lynch mob. Like I said, if this was a white person, this was a Hispanic person, I would be treating them with the same. I respectfully am asking her to consider what she said in her actions and either resign or the governor removed her. The governor has already reassigned 22 cases out of her office, so obviously there is validity and merit to what her statements have already brought forward.
And do you not buy the concept that there is institutional bias within the death penalty that has hurt the black community?
I wouldn't buy that so much. In this case, she's trying to change law, and that is not her job as a prosecuting attorney, as a state attorney. Legislators change law. She is elected there to follow, and yes, use prosecutorial discretion on each individual case. She's not doing that.
When you say that there are more whites than blacks on death row, but as a proportion of the population, there's an imbalance there. Do you at least recognize that?
Absolutely, yeah. There's more whites than blacks on there, but obviously when you're trying to make this a racial issue, it's really not.
I think what he was asking, though, is the question is that there are more whites than blacks, but the percentage of blacks on death row is disproportionate to the percentage.
And the same thing you can argue, and the same thing you can argue on generational poverty. You know, you can say that you know, whites are less propensed to be, you know, poor than blacks or Hispanics or anything else. So it's not just about race; it's about everything else that we deal in our society, and that's more proportionate to that. So, yeah. Go ahead.
You know, to me, this is it's certainly the subject is the death penalty. But it's really not, in my view, about the death penalty. It's about an elected official in our state acting in a lawless manner, in this case, trying to create law. I had the opportunity yesterday to speak to a few of people that actually defend death penalty cases. And what they told me is, well, I brought up the question, if this is allowed to stand, that you have a circuit, or maybe 2 or 3 in the state, that decide to, in essence, make law by refusing in a blanket way to enforce our laws, does that create an equal protection argument? They looked at each other, and I said, I'll bet you guys would have, you'd be in court, and I think the answer was in a New York second. So this is a very serious matter, not only affecting this circuit, but affecting the people of the state of Florida potentially in a very big way.
And with this, as we have to move on to the next committee, I'll close in saying this. This has been tried in other states before. In the state of New York, back in the 90s, I believe it was, Governor Pataki did remove a district attorney from Manhattan for the same type of reason, refusing to hear any death penalty cases with a blanket statement. And it went to the Supreme Court back in New York, and it was upheld for the governor to remove him. So, you know, there's case law, although it's not in Florida, it's nationwide of this happening before. If she would have not made the statement that she was not seeking death penalty, I don't think none of us would be up here standing questioning her, to be honest with you. If she used each individual case and based on merit and aggravating circumstances, yeah, we would be a little bit critical, but I don't think we would be calling for a removal because that's within her purview. She made a statement that she cannot retract that says, I will not seek any death penalty cases here, now, and in the future. That's where I have a problem. So thank you very much for coming.
So many classes?